So welcome. We are here and we are going to do, we're going to start standing for the practice today. But again, I always recommend if you feel more comfortable, if you want to start out slower, you can start out on the ground, either on your back or in a seated posture. But just have a little bit of energy today. We're going to focus on a little bit more mobility. And before I go too much further, my name is Elisa, and I just wanted to welcome you to class today. So we're going to start in a standing posture, as I mentioned, which we're going to call this mountain pose. So just peeking down to our feet and making sure that both feet are facing the front. And they're about hip bone distance apart. So sometimes in yoga class, we might be told to stand with our feet together, but we get a little bit more support, a little more balance and stability by having our feet about hip distance apart. And then from this, we're just going to roll our shoulders maybe a few times here, just as we settle into our mountain pose, and allowing the shoulders to draw back and down, letting our palms face forward. And before we close our eyes, maybe we've closed our eyes already, that's fine too, just allowing those fingertips to reach down towards the earth. So we're going to imagine that our shoulders are reaching towards our back pockets. And then if you'd like, if you haven't already, you might close the eyes completely, or maybe even just letting your gaze soften towards the earth. And just noticing your breath right here in this mountain pose. Not needing to change it or for it to be any particular way, just noticing, having that awareness of your breath. Almost as if you were watching your body being breathed. Now we're just going to direct our attention back down to our feet, pressing into the earth. And we have 4 corners in each foot, so thinking about the base of the big toe and the baby toe, and the inner and outer edge of each heel. And with that awareness of those 4 corners, you might notice that we tend to lean maybe to one side or another, maybe forward and back, forward or back, and we can kind of explore those. So if you notice that you tend to lean more to one side than the other, maybe letting the body drift through center and then over to the other side. So we can begin to notice where we feel centered, front to back and side to side, so that we're not leaning more to any one direction than another. And then from that base that we're creating with our feet, we're going to start to allow our attention to go upwards. So softening our knees, noticing if maybe we're locking the knees out. And throughout the practice, always making sure that we have at least a tiny bend in our knees. That's going to help us to remain supple. So to be strong, we also need to be supple. Excuse me. And then firming the thighs, we're going to notice a little lift in the pelvic floor. So maybe even imagining that our inner thighs are drawing in and back, so we can create that lift in the pelvic floor, creating our root lock or our Mula Bandha. When we create that lift, you might even notice the front of the torso starts to lengthen towards the sky. So we're getting a little bit taller, almost as if we're zipping up the front of the body, letting the crown of the head reach towards the sky. So as we root down through the feet, we're rising tall, rooting down to rise. And then coming back down the back of the body. Again, noticing those shoulders, drawing down away from the ears, tailbones reaching down towards the earth. So we're simultaneously lifting up and rooting down. Feeling that strength and that power that we're creating here in mountain. Maybe even when we're in line at the grocery store or any other place that we just notice ourselves standing, maybe from time to time checking in to see how our posture might vary from what we're creating here with this strength. And then with this strength, with this power, coming back to your breath, noticing if it's changed in any way. Allowing each exhale to be as long as the inhale before it. And then every time we exhale, allowing that breath to fully empty, creating space so that way when we take that next in-breath, that we can really expand and fill the body, feeling that expansion through the belly, all the way down to the lower lobes of the lungs. Expanding and contracting. Noticing every time we exhale that it's a release, it's a letting go. A way to let go of anything that no longer serves us. Letting go of expectations and judgments. Letting go of competition or limiting thoughts. Allow just a few more breaths here with the eyes closed. As you're ready, allowing eyes to open. And then starting to move with the breath. We're going to inhale, sweeping arms out and then overhead. Exhaling, hands come down to heart center. Inhaling, sweeping. Maybe letting our gaze follow our hands and then exhaling down. And you can make this movement big or small. So if there's any type of tightness in the shoulders, maybe making this movement a little smaller, honoring what your body needs right in this moment. So if it feels better, we might even explore maybe opening into cactus arms, feeling that expansion across the chest. Still moving with the breath, letting that inhale open us up and the exhale bring hands back into heart center or in front of the face. We'll do one more of whichever option you've chosen. And then bringing arms down alongside the body. We're going to focus a little bit on mobility today. So especially if we're sitting a lot, it might feel good to get into some mobility, creating that movement for the joints, that fluidity. So we're going to start first with the shoulders again. We're going to start bringing that left elbow up, circling back, and then we're going to take that arm with the hand all the way up and back. So inhaling and then exhaling, elbow and then the full arm. Maybe once again, letting our gaze follow the arm. And if any of this feels uncomfortable, knowing that we can modify it to fit what feels good to our body. So if we let that arm come towards the back, maybe getting a little bit of a twist here as we turn our gaze. And then we'll do just one more set of elbow, and then the whole arm, and we'll go to the other side. So coming to the right side, we'll inhale up, exhaling back and down. Noticing if maybe one side feels a little easier, maybe one side gets stuck at part of the movement. So we're not very symmetrical from side to side, even though we like to think we are, but usually we have one side that's tighter, or we have patterns of where we might lean to one side or turn our head to one side. It might even have something to do with how we sleep. So if you turn your head to one direction when you sleep. We'll do one more time, just like this. Shaking that out. We're going to add just a little bit of a twisting movement. So maybe taking our feet a little bit wider than when we started. And just allowing the arms to swing from one side to the other. So hands might reach towards our back pockets. And you can turn your head if that feels okay, but always honoring any sensation. So if something feels like an ouch or it doesn't feel good, finding what does feel good. So it's okay to challenge ourselves to come to that edge, but we never want to go past that edge into any type of ouch kind of movements. One more time to each direction. And then coming to face the front. We're going to explore some hip opening now. And what we'll do, we'll start first by spreading our feet pretty wide. So if you're facing the top of your mat, you might want to turn towards the long edge, letting the toes and the knees go towards the same direction. Inhaling arms up to a 5-pointed star. So reaching those arms up on the inhale. As we exhale, coming down into a squat. So moving into our moonflowers. Inhaling to lift. Exhaling to lower. Moving with that breath. So creating expansion across the chest and some hip opening as we lower. Pressing down to the feet to rise tall. Do one more, just like this. And then this time coming into sunflowers, we're going to exhale, hinging at the hips, drawing that circle with our arms. So we're drawing our own big, beautiful sun. We're creating the sun, in case it's not out where you are, and it's not out here. So creating that warmth, that heat. And this time when we exhale, we're hinging at the hips. So not worrying about getting all the way down to the floor. We're keeping the spine nice and long. Head above heart, heart above hips. We'll do just one more like this. So exhaling, we'll bring hands to our hearts. Now we're going to move on a little bit, and if what I'm about to do doesn't feel good to you, you can always return to moonflowers and sunflowers, or you can join me in a deeper squat. So feet, once again, very wide. We're going to exhale down. Elbows are going to come between the knees. So we're doing this to find some more mobility in the hips. So again, if this feels too uncomfortable, maybe coming up here or to moonflowers. But if you'd like to explore this movement, we can just gently sway from side to side. So noticing where you might be tight. We're going to try and keep those feet flat on the ground. Just a little side to side movement, keeping the chest lifted. So try not to look down towards the floor. But again, if this isn't the right movement for you, find what does. From here, we're going to bring hands to the floor. We'll parallel the feet, and we'll just come into a nice wide-legged forward fold. Letting the head reach down towards the floor. Hands can be on the ground, but if you don't make it all the way there, bring hands to maybe blocks or to the shins. And then from here, we're just going to create a little side-to-side movement. So letting both hands come over by the left foot, either on the ground or on that leg. And then we'll inhale here, and then exhaling, letting the hands either trace the floor or wherever they are, and coming to that right leg, or to the floor by the right foot. Inhaling, and then exhaling, we'll sweep over to the left side. Inhaling, and then we'll exhale over to the right side. We'll do one more time in each direction. Inhaling here, and then exhaling over to that left leg. Inhaling over towards the right leg. Coming back to center, we'll bend those knees, bringing hands to our thighs, and then very slowly all the way up to stand. Bringing our feet back into that mountain pose. So feet are about hip distance apart once again. We're going to move through chair pose. So big sweeping breath in, arms come overhead, and exhaling, we'll sit into our chair. Inhaling to rise, exhaling to sit. Now as you sit into that chair, that imaginary chair, letting the weight of the body come towards the heels, still keeping that lift through the chest, so lifting through your heart. Now if the hands get a little too much, or you'd like to keep them out of the equation, hands could come to the thighs, or you can just keep hands at heart center. So we're flowing with the breath. We might choose to stay in our chair, maybe a beat or two longer, creating some strength for those legs, really strengthening the thighs and our glutes, letting the weight of the body come towards our heels. So Maybe giving those toes a little wiggle. We know that the weight of the body is back. And just one more time like this. Hands to prayer position, Anjali Mudra. We're going to come back to the top of our mat, finding our mountain pose once again. Giving our shoulders maybe a circle back or forward. And then flowing through swan dive, we're going to start remembering our knees are bent. We always want to keep that little soft bend. We'll inhale, reaching arms to the sky. And then exhaling, hinging into our forward fold. Keeping those knees bent as much as needed to protect the back of the legs. So if you're having tightness in the hamstrings, maybe bending those knees a little bit more. And then rooting down to the four corners of the feet. We'll inhale, lifting all the way up. Exhaling, forward fold. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhaling to lift. And exhaling to lower. Rooting down as we rise tall. This time as we come into our forward fold, either letting the hands trace the floor in a ragdoll, or you might choose to hold on to the elbows with opposite hands, letting the weight of the upper body create some openness for the entire back of the body. So you might be noticing this more into your calves or your hamstrings, maybe the lower back. Remembering if you need to, you can bend those knees a little bit more. We'll stay here for just another breath or two. Allowing that little bit of opening for the back body as we bring our awareness inward. And placing hands next to the feet. We're going to step back into a downward facing dog. So big step with one foot and then the other foot. Hands are about shoulder distance apart, and the fingers are spread very wide. Feet are about hip bone distance. And for this first downward dog, we'll bend those knees. So that way we can facilitate lengthening the spine. So thinking about creating as much space as we can between the tailbone and then every single vertebra, getting a little more space in between it and the next one. And either staying here with knees bent, or we can begin to straighten one leg, letting that heel come down towards the ground. And then just switching to the other side. So one side lengthens, while the other side bends. Waking up the bottoms of the feet, the heels, waking up the hamstrings. You might be feeling this in your shoulders, creating strength in the upper body. So just 1 or 2 more times before pedaling the feet. And then lowering knees all the way down to the ground. We'll uncurl the toes. Hips come to heels as we come into a child's pose, letting the forehead come down towards the ground. And if it doesn't make it all the way there, we can use a block or maybe stack our hands underneath the forehead, allowing the forehead to rest. So thinking about the place between the eyebrows, that spot where we have our third eye, our intuition. We could add in a little gentle rocking there, massaging the brow. Observing any sensation in the lower back or the hips. If there's another part of the body speaking to you, so if this is uncomfortable to your knees, you could pad the knees or pad between the calves and the thighs. So there's always an option to modify to make the poses fit your body instead of the other way around. From here, we're going to walk our hands forward and we're going to come up into hands and knees. So we're in tabletop pose. Hands are directly underneath the shoulders. Remembering we can make fist for wrist if we have any wrist discomfort. But if not, we'll spread those fingers wide and creating our Hasta Bandha foundation with our hands. And knees are directly under hips as well. So we're going to start first by thinking about that stability and strength in the spine. And we're going to move through cat and cow. So starting with a big exhale, we're going to empty the belly as we bring the chin towards the chest and your gaze back towards the belly button. Inhale, and we'll reverse that. So tailbone's going to lift up, belly's dropping as we extend forward into cow pose. Exhaling, dropping the tailbone, rounding each vertebra one at a time, creating that round spine as we into cat, and then exhaling, actually inhaling, reversing, moving at your pace as quickly or as slowly as feels good right here. We'll do one more round. And then adding in a little bit of work for the core, or continuing with cat and cow if that feels better, so knowing that you have the option to stay where we were. We're going to inhale, finding our cow pose, arching the spine, tailbone up, the belly's dropping. And then as we exhale, we'll bring the left knee in towards the nose, rounding the spine like cat pose. As we inhale, that left knee can come down, or we can extend the leg with the toes pointing down towards the ground. Exhaling to round in, once again getting that little bit of a crunch, and then inhaling to extend. So your choice, cat and cow, we're adding in this little bit of a crunch for the abdominals, and we really find strength and we hold that knee in, really challenging ourselves to stay there for a moment. And then just one more time. And then as we exhale, we'll bring that left knee down to the ground, maybe finding a couple rounds of cat and cow or some hip circles here, maybe a child's pose, whatever you might need before we go on to that other side. So again, starting from our table, we'll inhale, letting the belly drop, exhaling right knee in towards the nose. And as we inhale again, that right knee can lower, or we can extend the leg. So it's all about finding what works for you on each side of the body. And it might be different from side to side or from day to day. And just one more time, just like this. Exhale, bring the knee down. We'll find our way into another child's pose. So maybe letting the knees go wider this time, creating space for the belly to extend down towards the ground, letting the belly rest on the legs. Staying here in child's pose, or we can lift into a downward facing dog. From down dog, choosing to stay still, or if you'd like, walking the left foot closer to the middle of the mat, inhaling your right leg up to the side in a three-legged dog. If we're choosing three-legged dog, we can wind that ankle, going in one direction and then the other. Then lowering the right leg down. You can switch to the other side, lifting the left leg up, keeping the hips square to the ground right now. So sometimes we'll open the hip up, but right here we're going to keep it square. We'll do those circles in both directions again. And then coming back into downward facing dog. Inhaling to look forward, looking towards the hands, engaging that belly in towards the lower back. Exhaling, we'll walk to the top of the mat, coming into forward fold. Inhaling, reverse swan dive. Looking up, and then exhaling, hands come to heart center. Taking a deep breath in here as we inhale, arms back to the sky, exhaling, hinging, keeping those knees bent as we come into forward fold. Crown of the head down towards the earth. We'll inhale to look forward, coming into monkey pose, flat back. So keeping our gaze maybe about a foot in front of the big toes. back of the neck is long. Exhaling, hands come to the ground. And we're going to step the left foot back, lowering the knee down to the floor, coming into low lunge. Right knee is directly over the ankle. Hands can stay on the ground, or if you have blocks, you might choose to bring hands to the blocks, bringing the floor a little bit closer to us. Or walking hands up that front thigh. Relaxing the shoulders down away from the ears, drawing that belly button in rather than letting the belly collapse towards the legs. And then as we exhale, hands come back to the floor. We'll step that right foot back. So we're coming into child's pose. Staying here if that feels good, or if you'd like, you can add in a vinyasa. Inhaling forward to kneeling plank. Exhaling, we'll lower, maybe pausing for a moment in a crocodile push-up. And then all the way down to the ground. So the body is long. Elbows are drawing back, shoulders are drawing back. And as we inhale, lifting up using just the strength of the back. Hands are very light on the floor. So we're in a baby cobra pose. Shoulders are down away from the ears. Exhaling, forehead comes down. And now planting those hands next to the shoulders, we're going to use the strength of the body to lift up as one unit. Kind of a reverse push-up there. Exhaling back into child's pose. On our next in-breath, we'll step that left foot forward. So we're on our lunge on the other side of the body, keeping that good alignment with our knee and the ankle. And remembering choices, hands can stay low, you can walk up that front thigh, maybe adding in an arm position, so hands could be here at prayer, or lifting arms to the sky. Relaxing the gaze. Exhaling, hands come to frame that front foot. We'll tuck the rear toes under, lifting into runner's lunge. And then big step into forward fold, crown of the head towards the earth. Inhaling that flat back, lengthening the spine. So getting as long as you can, creating extra length between each of the vertebrae, extra space. And then as we exhale, belly to the legs, forward fold. Inhaling, we'll lift up. Exhaling, finding chair pose once again. Lifting through the heart. So if we find ourselves collapsing here, maybe sitting up a little bit higher. We'll inhale, arms sweep to the sky. Exhaling, swan dive. Forward fold. Inhaling to our flat back. Exhaling, hands come to frame the front feet. And this time we'll step the right foot back. So the back knee could lower, or we could stay lifted. Placing hands on our blocks again if that feels appropriate. And if we're in this runner's lunge, we're thinking about scissoring the inner thighs towards each other. That's going to help us find a little bit more stability here. And you might choose to keep hands on the ground, or maybe walking hands up to that front thigh. Or we can choose an arm position here. I'm going to take a chest expansion with the hands behind my back. Finding what feels good to you. Exhaling, hands come back down to the floor or to our blocks. And then we'll step that left foot back. Either finding child's pose or downward facing dog. And then as we inhale, we'll come forward into plank on toes, or knees can lower to the ground. If we're on toes, thinking about drawing those inner thighs towards the ceiling. And then exhaling, lowering with the strength of the upper body back into that supine position. So we're nice and long from the toes all the way to the crown of the head, dragging those elbows back as we draw up into our baby cobra pose. So remembering, snakes don't have arms, and we're just going to use the strength of our back here. Exhaling, forehead comes down to the ground. And then as we inhale, we'll push up, maybe finding child's pose. We can lift into our downward facing dog again. Maybe inhale as we step the right foot between the hands, maybe giving it a little bit of help if it needs it. Finding your lunge of choice here. Knowing there's no right or wrong. whatever your body needs in this moment. Setting your gaze, relaxing the shoulders and the jaw. And then as we exhale, hands come to frame that front foot. And we'll step into our forward fold once again. Inhaling, lengthening the spine, flat back. Exhaling, melting forward fold. And as we inhale, big reverse swan dive. Exhaling, coming into our chair pose. Inhaling as we lift. And then exhaling, arms come down next to the body. Find yourselves back in that mountain pose where we started our practice today. Relaxing your gaze, maybe letting it come over the tip of the nose down towards the ground. And noticing, maybe even closing the eyes as we notice. Noticing what's happening in your body right now. So perhaps you're feeling a little warmer or the heart's beating a little faster or differently. Maybe you're aware of part of the body that you're using. Maybe one part saying hello to you. If eyes are closed, we'll allow the eyes to open and we'll bring hands together at heart center. Prayer position, Anjali Mudra. Taking a big step back with the right foot. We're going to come into Warrior One. So left knee is over the ankle. The right foot is angled towards the top corner of the mat. And then we'll inhale those arms into traditional warrior arms. Or if you prefer, you can keep hands at heart center. Relaxing the shoulders down away from the ears. Rooting down through the outside edge of that back foot. So if you're feeling that heel lifting a bit, maybe bringing that foot in a little bit closer or that leg in a little bit closer. On our next in-breath, we'll turn the torso towards the long edge of the mat, maybe even stepping that rear foot out a little bit wider if you need more room for the body. Shoulders and hips are aligned. So checking in here, sometimes we'll come into Warrior Two and we might be leaning forward, but we want to be nice and upright. We'll check to make sure that the left big toe is inside of the knee. So we want to make sure we can see that big toe, and if not, if that leg's flopping in, giving it a little bit of help, strengthening that front thigh. From here, we'll bend that front elbow, coming into side angle pose. The forearm can come to the thigh, back hand can stay on the hip, or we can choose to open that arm to the sky, if that feels okay to the shoulder. And then, if you'd like, either bringing that left hand to the floor, or if you have a block, or maybe a couch cushion nearby, you can bring that hand to the ground. Maybe getting a little more opening into that left hip and thigh by bringing the hand down. But if that's not feeling appropriate today, maybe staying with the forearm on the thigh. From here, we're going to inhale back into Warrior Two. We'll exhale, those arms release. Maybe noticing all that strength and just holding the arms there. Inhale those arms back up. And your gaze come out over the left middle finger. And then flipping that palm to the side, we'll inhale. Reverse warrior. Left hand is over the shoulder. Back arm can be resting on the back leg or can be sweeping around the lower back. And we're still sitting into those strong legs. So sometimes when we come into this pose, we might find ourselves lifting up a little bit more. Let's stay into that strong front thigh. Exhale, we'll come back into Warrior Two. We'll cartwheel the arms coming into our runner's lunge. Then stepping back into downward facing dog. So we'll take a moment here to either hang out in down dog. We can lower to child's pose, or if you'd like, we can explore our three-legged dog once again in this down dog. So maybe lifting one leg to the sky. This time we have the option of opening that hip, maybe bending the knee to look under the armpit. Drawing navel in to protect the lower back. And then squaring the hips, we'll come back into our down dog and we can switch sides. Inhaling, lifting that leg if it feels appropriate. Bending the knee, looking under that same side. Arm. Taking a breath. And squaring the legs and hips. We'll come back into our down dog. Walking hands back to meet the feet. And a big inhale, sweeping up. Reverse swan dive, hands come to the heart. So if you're at the back of your mat, you can take a walk to the front. I'm just going to flip sides just so I can be facing you. And we're going to do that again. So this time stepping the left foot back, finding warrior one. Inhaling arms to any position. So we'll check in, making sure that the left heel, the left outer edge, or the outer edge of the left foot actually, is pressing into the earth. So if we need to, we could always walk that foot in a little bit. Maybe bringing hands to the heart. Relaxing our gaze. On our next in-breath, we're going to turn our torso towards the long edge of the mat, coming into that warrior two. Reaching arms in opposite directions, so maybe giving those fingers a little wiggle, setting some energy in both directions. Feeling that strength that we're creating in the thighs, in the legs, in the arms as well. And bending that front elbow, coming into side angle pose. So we can stay more in this upright posture with the forearm on the thigh. Maybe lifting that opposite arm, or we can lower that hand to the ground. So there's no right or wrong, it's just what it feels like in your body. So if you're in the position where you're more upright and you're feeling it, and you're doing it right. So from here, we're going to root that left foot into the earth using the left side of the body to inhale back to warrior two. Setting our gaze, and then we'll flip that front palm to the sky. Inhaling, hinging, lifting up, reverse warrior. Looking up, or maybe looking down, whichever feels better to the neck. And you can explore those two. And back into warrior two for one more breath, knowing that when we can meet these challenging moments on the mat, that means we can meet them off the mat as well. Cartwheel those arms, coming into runner's lunge. And this time we'll step back, first into a downward facing dog. Then lowering knees, come into any variation of child's pose that feels good to you. Maybe letting hands come back towards the heels. Letting that full inhale, expand, creating space through the back ribs. Feeling that expansion to the belly as well. So allowing the belly to rest on the legs. And then as we exhale, everything draws in. And walking our hands forward, lift into downward facing dog. Choosing to stay still or add any movement of choice that feels good here. We'll walk hands back to meet the feet once again. Softening our knees as we root down to rise tall. Getting ready to add in our balance for today. And for today, we're going to do a tree pose. So we have different options with tree, and remembering that no matter what balance we do, we always have the option of using the wall. So if you have a wall nearby, or a chair, or a shelf, something that allows you to maybe just rest the fingers a little bit, always an option. So for tree, we're going to start from the mountain pose that we started our class with. And as we start to notice, one thing I want you to think about is that the Mula Bandha, that lift through the pelvic floor. So creating that Mula Bandha, that lift. And then as we start to shift more of our weight into our right leg, we can bring our left knee out at an angle and come up onto the toes. So this is our first option. So there's always different variations, different stops along the bus route. So finding, where you want to hang out. So this might be your tree pose for today. Or you might choose to bring the heel in closer to the ankle. So we can stay here and hang out in our low tree. Or we might bring that heel to the calf, the shin, or maybe up to the thigh. Being really careful to avoid the knee. So just not pushing into the knee. Hands can stay out at our sides, maybe at prayer. We can grow those branches, get really tall. Still thinking about that Mula Bandha. So even though we're in this pose, we're finding that lift of the pelvic floor and using that lift to grow taller, to bring energy up into the body. Letting the breath flow in and flow out. Also here for just another breath or two. Relaxing your gaze. It's okay if you bobble or if it's a little windy where you are. And we'll slowly come out of our pose, maybe shaking the legs or doing some circles for the hips. So as we get ready to go to the other side, remembering again, like we said earlier, we're not symmetrical. So this side might look a little different. Our tree might be a little different on this side. But we'll start with the same ideas in mind, starting with that mountain pose, our root lock, Mula Bandha. So you might even notice that as you lift up, how that feels different. So thinking about drawing in through those inner thighs, drawing into the pelvic floor, and then maybe bringing those right toes out to the side. So for some of us, and I've got my block here, you might even want to just use the block, maybe bringing toes onto the block. Or you can bring the heel to the ankle. So thinking about growing tall. And this is as much a balance as any of the other options we have because we're not standing on our 2 feet the way we normally do. So thinking about the fact that we are asking the body to do something that we don't normally do. So we talked about mountain pose being kind of like standing in line at the grocery store, how we could examine it. But how many of us stand like this in the grocery store line? Probably not a lot of us. At least not every day. So rooting down through those 4 corners of the foot. Feeling that strength and stability, the suppleness in the knee as we root down and rise taller. Maybe feeling that openness in the hip that we created at the start of the practice. And exhaling, arms come down. I'm just going to move my block out of the way. You might move your body a little bit here, a little counter movement. Shaking things out, anything that feels a little tight. Maybe giving our bodies a little bounce here, a little bounding. Imagining we're on a little mini trampoline. Getting a lift to move in the body. And we'll just slow that down. We'll come back to the front of our mats. Inhaling, sweeping arms to the side. And exhaling, big bend in the knees as we come into forward fold. We'll bring our knees down to the ground and make our way onto our bottoms. So we're going to do a little bit more mobility for our hips here. And we're going to start in a position called 90-90. And it's really because we basically have both of our knees in 90-degree angles. So I'm facing the left side, and you can mirror me or whichever feels better. But I'm even going to create that 90-degree angle with my foot. So flexing the foot, the knees 90 degrees, and then the hips roughly 90 degrees. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. And it doesn't have to be exact 90 degrees, but you get the idea. So for a lot of us, this can be kind of challenging. So we'll start first with hands behind the back. And just noticing how this feels to both sides of the hips. And then to go to the other side, we might need to move our hands a little bit. We'll flip over to the other side. So again, keeping that 90-90, sending some energy through the toes by spreading them wide. And we'll go back to the first side. We'll do this just a few times here. Nice and slow so we can feel the opening in our hips to get to one side and then going to the other side. One more time back to the first side. And then over to our second side. So now you can keep where you started with, or as we come back, we're going to add in a little bit of a twist. Now, as we're twisting towards that left leg, maybe extending that right arm. So the right arm is almost an extension of that left knee. And inhaling, we'll come up. We'll exhale, twisting over to the other side and extending that left arm forward. So the left hand is diagonal to that right knee. We'll inhale up and we'll do each side one or two more times. So moving slowly or quickly here. We're going back to where we started. I'm just going to do one more time to each direction. You can do as many times as you'd like, but trying to find balance between both sides of the body. We'll come back to where we started. And this time, we're going to twist. So that both hands are on the floor this time, and we'll twist towards the back. So maybe looking over that left shoulder as we twist towards the right. Actually, look towards the left shoulder as we twist towards the left. And then we'll come back. We'll do the other side. This might feel really good into the lower back and the spine. And finding your rhythm here, not needing to keep pace with me. And we'll do just one more time to each side if you're still kind of on the same pace as me. Just finding that balance between both sides. So then coming back to face the front, we'll pause for just a moment and we'll cross both legs and we'll extend forward into a cross-legged forward fold. Again, maybe noticing this into the hips. We'll inhale, walking hands in, and we're going to switch sides. So now bringing the other leg in front. We'll inhale to sit up nice and tall, and then as we exhale, extending the torso out over the legs. And extending our gaze towards the belly button. And inhale, we'll walk our hands back in. We're going to do a little bit more mobility for our shoulders. So we started with some shoulder work, creating that mobility into the joints. And now we're going to lay down on our right side, or you can lie down on whichever side feels better for you. So almost in a fetal position, knees are stacked, knees are bent, and then we'll stack the arms. So your right ear can rest on the ground, or if you'd like to place a pillow underneath it or a block, you could do that. And we're going to create almost a rainbow movement for the top arm. So we'll take that arm and bring it all the way around. And then bring it back to front. So fingertips might trace the floor, or the fingertips might come away from the floor. It all depends on that mobility that you've got in the shoulder. So not judging it if you find a place where you get a little stuck. So keeping those knees nice and stacked. Inhaling and then exhaling. You do just one more to this side. And coming back to our starting position, we'll flip over to the other side. I'm going to change directions just so I can stay facing you. So finding that position of that fetal position with knees stacked, arms are stacked, And then starting to take that top arm, tracing that rainbow, that arc. Maybe noticing if one side feels different than the other. Usually one side is easier. Inhaling, and exhaling. So maybe this side you notice you have a different range of motion. You get a little stuck somewhere, and if you do, you can maybe stay there and hang out for an extra moment or two. Just one more time. And coming back to center, we'll make our way onto our backs. So coming into a bent knee position, we'll hug knees in towards the chest, maybe rocking them back and forth. And taking both knees, or both feet down to the ground, moving arms out to the side, and a little gentle windshield wiper movement from one side to the other. So again, finding some of that hip mobility, maybe feeling a nice stretch for the lower back. And then staying just like this, you can have this flowing twisting movement, or if you'd like to have a more passive twist, we'll lift both hips up and over to the left side and let the knees drop to the right. The knees are going in one direction, and then the belly, the chest, and maybe the head are going in the opposite direction. Taking one or two more breaths right here. And we'll slowly come back to center, and we can take our twist to the other side. So this time lifting hips up and over to the right side of the mat, letting knees drop to the left. Arms can be in a T shape, or you can make cactus arms right here. Allowing just a few more breaths in this pose as we open the heart towards the sky. Coming back to face center. And finding any last pose that you might like here. So you might want to come to a happy baby, or I'm going to reach for my block and find a variation of legs up the wall. So feet flat on the ground, lifting the hips, maybe placing a block if you have one, or if not, maybe a sofa cushion underneath the sacrum, that bone at the base of the spine. And then maybe lifting the legs to the sky. So you might be here with me, or you could be in any other pose that your body needs. Honoring what your body is asking for in this moment. If you have your legs up like I do, you might circle the ankles, or you could scissor the legs a little bit, or you could stay perfectly still. If you're here with me in legs up the wall, we'll Bring the feet back down to the ground, lifting the hips to release the spine, letting the spine settle back towards the earth. We can come back to a bent knee position from wherever you are. So we're making our way into final relaxation, and we could stay here in constructive rest with the knees bent, letting the feet be wider than the knees and the knees dropping in towards each other. Arms moving next to the body with the palms facing up. Or you could extend those legs more into a traditional Shavasana, letting the feet walk out to the sides. Or any other position that is restful for you. We could be on our bellies or our sides, if that feels better too. Allowing the eyes to soften and close. Relaxing the place between the eyebrows, softening the eyes, allowing them to soften towards the back of the head. Relaxing all the muscles around the eyes, around the jaw. Softening the throat and the back of the neck. Feeling the shoulders soften into the ground. And keeping a little bit of space between the shoulders so we can have that lift in the heart as we allow the weight of the body to sink into the ground. Our deepest fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Inviting some movement back into the body. Maybe wiggling the toes and the fingers. Rolling the ankles and the wrists. And then very slowly turning to one side with the knees bent. Using the hands to help lift to a comfortable upright position. Bring hands together at the heart. And then as we inhale, we sweep them up and over, bringing the thumbs to the forehead for good thoughts, to the lips for good words, and to the heart for good intentions. The divine light in me honors and sees the divine light within you. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. And if you'd like to know more, please feel free to check out my website at xyzenwellness.com. Got all kinds of other yoga practices, meditations, and health coaching options. So I'd love to be hearing from you guys.
And thanks so much for sharing your time with me today.